Hello and welcome to Tucking It Up. My name is Tuck, and as you can tell, I like playing around with makeup. So today was a particularly fun video for me because I got to play around with the new industrial palette from Isamaya Beauty. So Isamaya Beauty is the new makeup line from Isamaya French. She's a really cool makeup artist. I love her work. She's got a really great YouTube channel as well. I'll link to all of that below. I actually recreated before any of this stuff came out. I actually tried to recreate one of the looks that she did. I actually wore it to DragCon. It was a lot of fun. Despite my questionable skill level, people still really responded well to that look, so I'm a stan now, maybe you could say. But yeah, if you'd like to see how I created this look, please stay tuned. I'm going to do a bit of a Peacock / grunge inspired look, and that to me mainly means I'm going to be using deeper greens and deeper blues. I'm also going to throw in a little bit of gold as well as some iridescent, there's a color in here or there's a shadow in here that gives an iridescent sort of effect, which I think is really good if you're going for a peacock style kind of thing. So I've already gone ahead and done all of my skincare, so toner, serum, a little bit of moisturizer, and then sunscreen as primer. Of course, you can always use a dedicated face primer if you like. And I'm going to start with the eyes today, as has been sort of my, latest. I got just evolved into that style, especially today because we're using darker colors, and I do always get a little bit of fallout, whatever eyeshadow I'm using, and so it's just easier. Do the eye first, then I can clean up, and then it doesn't get in the way of, my foundation, all of that kind of thing. To start with, I'm going to use an eyeshadow primer. This one is from Wet n Wild, and I think I've mentioned this before in one of my other videos, but my eyes eat makeup for, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and this has been the only primer that I found that had things, made them last, like, the whole day, like, literally 8 to 10 hours. I can barely see any fading, so I really like it, and it's really affordable. I should point out that even if your eyes don't consume makeup like mine do, it's good to use a primer for this look because one of the shades that we're using tends to stain the skin quite strongly. Alright, so the eyeshadow primer has had a chance to dry down and set, and so I'm going to use a dark, like a navy blue pencil to put down a little bit of a base for the eyeshadow and just kind of intensify along the upper lash line mainly. And I'm going to be using Atria Flash from Linda Hallberg. It has a little bit of sparkle in it. You could use something like that, or if you just have a matte navy blue one, I think that's fine. The main purpose of this is to bring out the blue more from the shadow that we're going to be laying on top of that. Apply the pencil along the upper lash line. You want it a little bit thicker along the outer corner than the inner, but it doesn't matter to get it like super precise in this case because we're going to blend it out. Because this is a long wearing pencil, you want to blend it out pretty quickly and you want to do one eye at a time. And I'm using a brush from Morphe, the M321. Any sort of brush that you want to use for blending this out will work. Anyway, just want to blend it out. Do a little bit of a wing in the outer corner, but nothing too dramatic yet. And don't worry so much about like getting the shape exactly perfect because we're going to go over this with shadow, and then we can refine later on with foundation / concealer as well. Alright, so next step is a little bit unusual for me, which is I'm going to actually start the tight lining now before usually I do this at the very end, but I thought, let's change it up a little bit because I always end up doing it twice anyway, just to like really intensify it. So I'm going to take a black pencil. After laying down the product on the lower lash line, I'm just going to take that brush from earlier and just smudge out the edges just a little bit, and then I'm just going to move on to the upper waterline. I'm going to apply a dark blue shadow over the pencil, and this the blended out blue pencil, and this one is Diesel, and you can see it's kind of almost like a black, right? In some lighting situations, I would say it almost looks like a black. It's hard to detect the blue, and so that's why I use a blue pencil as a base again, because I wanted to like really bring out and emphasize that aspect of the shadow. Using a flat shader brush, this one is brush 21 from Refer, I'm just going to pat, actually mostly using patting motions, place that Diesel shade over where I had the navy blue pencil, and just blend out the edges, and you're basically done. I don't know if you could tell from the footage, but it's not super opaque. You can build it up. But actually I kind of like that because then you can really have a lot of control and it doesn't take a long time to build up. So now we're going to put down a green shade. In this case, it's going to be Motor. To me, this reads much more like a dark, kind of warm green. We're going to lay this kind of at the edges of where we put down Diesel. Using the same shader brush as before, I cleaned it off, but having a little bit, I think, of the previous color helps with the blending actually. I'm going to place, like I said, place Motor over the edges of where Diesel was. I'm trying to keep the shape relatively contained. Basically, I don't want you to be able to see very much color at all when my eyes are open, except at the outer corners, except where there is that wing. So kind of think of applying the color on an angle where, the lowest point of the slant is at the inner corner and then it kind of angles like 45 degrees upwards, so like it goes up higher and higher as you get to the outer corner. To soften the edges of the green and kind of a little bit, where of the blue as well, I'm going to use the shade Fetish from the palette. This is a gold, but it's not a like super bright gold like you might see. I guess when I think bright gold, I think like Gold Standard from Pat McGrath. So this one has a bit more of a blackened base to it, but I think that'll be nice because it will help soften the edges, but it'll still help keep that kind of grungy sort of feeling to everything. Using a flat but still fluffy blending brush, this one is 01 from Refer, I'm just going to place Fetish mainly in the mostly in the inner corner and at the edges of where the green is. Again, we just want to blend it out. And then you can take the color, and again on its 45-degree angle kind of, and work it into the green a little bit. And then as you get towards the outer corner, make sure that the gold starts sort of like getting, so I guess, less and less prominent, sort of like you get less and less of it, and then just blend it into the wing a tiny bit. All right, so you can see I really actually quite like this effect. Anyway, so now we're going to place down the last color for the upper lids, and well, I guess you only have upper lids, there's no lower lids. Anyway, we're going to use Sweat, which is kind of more of an iridescent shade, and I'm going to place that mainly, using my finger actually in this case, mainly sort of in on the center of the eyelid to give like a bit of a, I guess, halo spotlight sort of effect. Anyway, you'll see what it looks like. Using my finger, I'm just going to pat Sweat in the center of the eyelid, and then using that blending brush that from earlier that I used to apply a Fetish or that gold shade, I'm just going to tap along the edges and soften everything up, blend everything together. And with that, we're basically done with the upper lid. I keep saying upper lid. There's the lid, the upper, the upper portion of the eye. So now we're going to work on the under eye, and this is actually really simple. We're just going to use one shade, which is Whip. It's this black or gunmetal. Actually, not really black. It's more like I would say it's a gunmetal shade. It has a black or really dark gray base. We're just going to use that to smoke out the lower lash line. Using the sharp edge of a flat shader brush, dip it into Whip, and then just tap it along the lower lash line. In this case, I'm using a slightly softer shader brush, and then you just blend out the edges to just soften the whole thing up a little bit. And then you want to bring Whip in about, I'd say 3/4 of the way. You can bring it all the way into the inner corner as well, but I wanted a slightly softer look. Alright, and with that, we're more or less done with the eye. We'll go ahead and refine the shapes and all of that just after I do the rest of my base. But yeah, this is pretty much it. So I'm going to go off camera, put on some foundation, bronzer, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. I'm just going to use my Salt New York products because I want it to be quite light today. I think that just works better with like the whole, I guess, grungy sort of feel. So I will be right back. What I did off camera was I used the Salt New York products, as I mentioned. I'll link to a video where I showed you how I kind of do my regular base, and this is basically that, except everything's amped up just a little bit. I also sharpened up and refined the shape of the wings a little bit with concealer, and I reapplied the black pencil to tightline. And now we're ready to move on to the lips and just complete this look. So the shades that I'm going to use today are Deep Nougat from Linda Hallberg, and that's the kind of grayish nude, and then I'm also going to use Brooklyn Thorn, which reads quite gray on me, from NYX Cosmetics. I'm going to start by taking Brooklyn Thorn and applying it all over my lips. It's going to be quite a light application, and I also don't want to have a super precise, super defined sort of lip line. And then I'm going to apply Brooklyn Thorn a little bit more thickly at the outer corner. On top of that, I'm going to apply that deep Nougat shade, mainly concentrating it in the center of my lip. Just to finish everything off, I want to tie everything together, so I thought, let me just put some sweat as like a bit of a topper on my lips. We're done with the look then. So yeah, let me do a quick tour as always. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I really like how this turned out. And yeah, I really like this palette, I have to say. I'll do more of a fuller first impression / swatch / comparison video, and I'll link that when it's up, I guess, somewhere, wherever it is, like here, I think it's here. Anyway, but just to give you a quick overview, I think this palette is, you know, it's difficult to say if it's worth the price. It's an expensive palette. It's $115. But if you like sort of the earlier Pat McGrath color stories, right? So if you like Motherships like 1, I would say, through 4, maybe even up, you know, I don't know if I'd include Broad Seduction, but sure, let's throw that in there. But if you like sort of that more editorial sort of vibe to your makeup, I think you'll really enjoy this palette. So if you like content like this, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I should say that at the beginning and not the end, because who stays towards the end of the video, right? But anyway, until next time, please take care, and bye!